Good afternoon. It's Sunday, August 14th. I'm Aryeh O'Sullivan, and this is IBA News broadcasting from Jerusalem. We open with good news from the Rio Olympics, with Israeli judoka Or Sasson claiming yet another bronze medal for Israel, this time in the men's over 100 kilograms competition. Sasson of Jerusalem became the second member of the Israeli judoka team to win a medal at this year's Olympics Games in Rio de Janeiro. Earlier last week, Yarden Jerby won the bronze in the women's 63 kilogram class. Speaking to reporters, an emotional Sasson said, "My dream came true in front of my eyes." President Reuven Rivlin and Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu phoned to congratulate Sasson, with both leaders saying he had made his country proud. Jews around the world today are marking Tisha B'Av. Amid a heightened police presence, clashes erupted on Jerusalem's Temple Mount between security forces and Muslim worshippers this morning. The violence occurred as a group of nearly 1,000 Jews and tourists were permitted to visit the holy site. The police have deployed hundreds of extra officers in and around Jerusalem's Old City to protect the thousands of worshippers visiting the Western Wall and surrounding areas. Tisha B'Av commemorates the destruction of both temples and other historical tragedies, including expulsion from England, France, and Spain, and the liquidation of the Warsaw Ghetto. Worshippers often sit on the ground and read from the Book of Lamentations. Deputy Defense Minister Rabbi Eli Ben-Dahan of the Jewish Home Party told a rally last night outside the Old City's walls, "We are not ashamed to say it, we want to rebuild the temple on the Temple Mount." The 25-hour fast will end tonight at 7:51 in Jerusalem and 7:53 in Tel Aviv. Well, joining us now from our Tel Aviv studio is Rabbi Shlomo Chain of 126 Ben Yehuda Street Synagogue. Rabbi Chain, welcome.
Hi, thank you.
Rabbi, nearly 2,000 years since the destruction of the Second Temple, yet we have a Jewish state today with our capital in Jerusalem. So how relevant is Tisha B'Av?
Well, I think Tisha B'Av is actually more relevant than ever, because if we just go back 70 years ago, we saw what destruction is. And even more so, I think Tisha B'Av, even more important than remembering the destruction of the temple, it's to actually remember what destroyed the temple. Specifically the Second Temple, it was the hatred. It was the sinat chinam, what we call in Hebrew. Mm-hmm. And it's still relevant till today. We still see how our nation is so separated from different sides, religious, secular, right, left, with real hatred. Not just a dislike, but real hatred. So if we have one day a year that we can really stop and say, okay, we want to put our differences aside and we want to remember what hatred creates, and it creates a destruction, it creates a fire that really consumes everything, and we want to change that. We want to be a change. We want to be a real light. We want to really create a caring and a love to each other, instead of that hatred and destruction that we've seen for so many generations.
Well, as a rabbi in Tel Aviv, which is kind of a secular town, how do you think the public relates to this religious holiday? The secular public I'm talking about.
So it's a great question. It was actually amazing to see last night how synagogues, community centers were really packed. In our shul alone, we had over 150 young men and women coming together to really say the prayers, the special psalms that you sing, the kinot that we say on Tisha B'Av, to come and hear a class about what it means, the destruction and the past, and learning from the prophets. And there was just 200 meters away from us on the beach, another group of 60, 70 people. And you really see how people are coming together because they understand how relevant our history, our past, is to build our future. And only by looking into the past and understanding what were our mistakes back then can we really build a brighter future.
You know, you mentioned one of the themes of the Tisha B'Av is baseless hatred. Well, how has it contributed, and how it contributed to the Jewish destruction? What can be done to ensure that this message of Tisha B'Av is heard all year round, not just today?
So we actually spoke about it during the week. I asked exactly that question. I said, we've been speaking about it for 2,000 years. This hatred that is something that consumes us from within as a society, as a people, as a nation. And how can we make a change, this generation? How today can I start a change that really doesn't stop at Tisha B'Av, but every single day throughout the 365 years, we'll remember to start loving and less hating. And I think that the answer is, it's a very simple answer, is that we don't continue talking about hatred as something that happens over there, or something that happens by my neighbors, or my neighbors hate, or my friends hate, and I don't hate. It's actually us coming and pointing inwards and saying, how can I stop hating? Not just saying, oh, it's a problem. It's my problem. I hate someone. How can I wake up and say, I don't want to hate that person anymore. I want to really make a change. Because my mother once taught me that when you have a pointing finger, you actually have 3 pointing fingers right back at yourself, blaming yourself. So I think if every single one of us every morning wakes up and says, I want to be an agent of change, and I want to stop hating, and I want to start loving, and really thinks very hard, and doesn't make excuses, we can really make a change every day of our lives of not hating, but rather loving.
Well, Tisha B'Av focuses on the commemoration of the destruction of the temple. And historically, Arab riots and terrorism have been sparked by their fears that the Al-Aqsa is in danger. Do you think it's responsible for political and religious leaders to feed into those fears by talking about rebuilding the temple?
Wow, so that's a big debate, and I'm not really such a whiz about politics, but I think it's a balance. Again, it's a balance between that right now there is a certain status quo, but on the other hand, we have to remember that that is ours, that our land, and we don't have to ask for forgiveness all the time, that this is our land. And I'm not talking right or left, but this is our land. And we have to remember, if once a year we can remember that Temple Mount is ours, I think it's important. Do I think we have to make an uprising and piss off the Muslims that are there right now? No. But we do have to remember very clearly what it means to be the Jewish people in a Jewish state. That Baruch Hashem, after so many years, thousands of years, my grandparents, my great-grandparents, my great-great-grandparents would say every single day, 3 times a day, we want to see Zion again, the mountain again. And I got to see it. And we all get to see it every single day. And we shouldn't take that for granted. And I think Tisha B'Av is a great time that we shouldn't take it for granted. And we should remember that this is our home.
Okay, Rabbi Shlomo Chain of the 128 Ben Yehuda Street Synagogue in Tel Aviv, thank you very much for your words of wisdom, and have an easy fast.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Hezbollah leader Sheikh Hassan Nasrallah has again threatened Israel during a speech marking the 10th anniversary of the end of the Second Lebanon War. Speaking from inside his bunker, Nasrallah said that there is no area in Israel that Hezbollah rockets can't reach. His words were broadcast on giant screens to his supporters. According to the Hezbollah leader, the Second Lebanon War damaged the Israeli public's trust in the IDF and political leadership, which he says exists to this day. Zionist Union MK Amir Peretz, who was defense minister at the time, dismissed Nasrallah's comments, noting that he was still hiding in a bunker while Israeli children in the north play outside without fear. And that is victory enough, he said. The government unanimously approved the 2017-2018 draft budget early Friday morning following an all-night session, with critics slamming Finance Minister Moshe Kahlon for bowing down to the political needs. In response, Kahlon said the budget increases social budgets by billions of shekels, and he will lead the country's economy responsibly and judiciously. He insisted the budget will increase the drug basket by some 200 million shekels, will reduce corporate tax rates, and will bring about the construction of 17,000 new classrooms. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu hailed the budget, saying it will allow for reforms and growth, a lower cost of living, and will reduce the gaps between the social classes. Opposition leader MK Isaac Herzog said the new budget looks like a national plan to widen gaps, deepen poverty, and continue to deteriorate the Israeli agriculture and industries. A truck driver who lives on a moshav called Beit Elazari near the Rehovot is being held by police for allegedly shooting dead a member of a gang he said was trying to steal his vehicle during the night. Police said the man had telephoned them to say that 3 men were trying to steal his truck. He reportedly said that they had threatened him with a club, and he fired warning shots into the air with a pistol, which he was licensed to carry. He claimed he didn't think he hit anybody, but a search in the fields revealed a body of a man, a resident of the West Bank in his 30s, who had been mortally wounded. The dead man had reportedly been wearing gloves and had car theft tools on him. The lawyer for the driver said his client is going through a Kafkaesque affair, but was certain he will be freed once police questioning is over. At an emotional ceremony at Mount Herzl's military cemetery marking the 10th anniversary of their son Michael's death in the Second Lebanon War, parents Harriet and Mark Levine met with soldiers from the paratroopers brigade where Levine served. The soldiers, one from England and another from Brazil, told the parents they had been inspired by Michael, who enlisted as a lone soldier in the army and was killed in that war. Since their son's death, and without receiving a shekel from the government, Michael's parents have built a network of lone soldier centers in Israel for civilians from abroad who choose to enlist in the IDF. And at the Olympics today, Israeli windsurfer Miyan Davidovich could clinch a third medal for the Israeli team in Rio when the decisive final sail takes place later. Davidovich is currently ranked 5th with the same number of points as 3rd and 4th place. She is just 5 points behind the 1st and 2nd place, and a good final sail could put her on the podium. Also today, eyes will be on athlete Hanna Minenko, who will be competing in the triple jump finals after qualifying on Saturday. She finished 4th in the London Olympics, but then she represented the Ukraine before moving to Israel in 2013. Meanwhile, the Egyptian Olympic Committee is investigating the behavior of their country's judoka Islam El-Shahabi, who refused to shake hands with the Israeli opponent Or Sasson at the end of the match in Rio Olympics on Friday. The Egyptian committee said it had summoned El-Shahabi to a hearing on the matter and would release its decision in the coming days. However, El-Shahabi insisted that while he respects the rules of sports, he was under no obligation to shake hands with his Israeli opponent. Back in Egypt, many applauded his decision and others criticized his manner. However, the International Olympics Committee is due to publish a decision today on whether to bar the Egyptian judoka from participating in future Olympic Games. Yesterday, an IOC spokesman called the Egyptian behavior unacceptable.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I don't know the full details yet. I just was hearing as I came in, it was the end of the fight, in which I think the Israeli athlete won, and we'll obviously look into it. I mean, what I would also say is things happen in the heat of the moment that are not acceptable, and obviously we would remind all the competitors of the Olympic values. And I think that's best exemplified by the athletes' village here. People compete very toughly together and then share their meals and share their thoughts and share their reflections at the end of the day. And I think that's something that we all believe in. We believe that the Olympic movement should be about building bridges, never erecting walls. So we will look into it. As I say, it's absolutely no excuse, but I think sometimes, for many reasons, athletes can't quite bring themselves to shake hands at the end, and it's a shame if that happens.
Well, as we kick off the week, here are 5 good news stories to put a spring in your step. The Israeli startup Photomine is nearing the top of the paid iPhone app list and is said to be making millions for its application that allows smartphone users to scan old photos from albums and digitize them. The American Christian Broadcasting Network recently began filming in Israel a documentary on the 6 Days War called In Our Hands. It is due to be released next year to mark the occasion of the 50th anniversary of the 1967 war. The Israeli startup Nini Speech received the first prize at the Global Innovation Awards 2016 in China. The startup developed a revolutionary digital platform for treating speech disorders. And for the first time, an Israeli driver took the wheel at the NASCAR races in the United States. Alon Day, a native of Ashdod, finished in 13th place in the prestigious NASCAR Xfinity Series. He was sponsored by a Jewish attorney from Florida who aimed to break the impression that NASCAR was a solely Southern Christian redneck sport. Top model Bar Raffaeli gave birth to a healthy baby girl Thursday at Ichilov Hospital. Married to Israeli businessman Adi Ezra, it's the couple's first child, and they decided to call their daughter Liv. Mazel tov. In finance, the stock exchange was closed for Tisha B'Av, and as are the currency markets. Turning to the weather, and it will be partly cloudy with a slight drop in temperatures. Here are the expected highs and lows at home and abroad for the next 24 hours. Thank you for being with us this afternoon for our special Tisha B'Av bulletin. Please join us again tomorrow when Elon Aslan Levy will be here to bring you the latest news from Israel. I'm Ari O'Sullivan, wishing you a good evening and shalom from Jerusalem.